Hey, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Extra Feature Interviews. Today I have a fabulous guest who sent me his third short. I don't know why he keeps coming back. He must miss me. Chris Esper, his new short, Distant Memories. Where do we find this, Chris? I have no idea.
Oh, where do we find the short, you're asking?
Yeah.
Oh, well, right now it's not publicly available online because it's making its rounds on the festival circuit, but hopefully within the next year or so, it will be available for public viewing. But for now, people can find it at film festivals. We just found out today that we're going to be screening at the Massachusetts Independent Film Festival, and we're screening at the Spring Lane Film Festival in North Carolina at the end of April. So that's all very exciting.
So if you live in those areas, please go check out Chris's work. It's lovely. You'll see, and make sure you watch his other shorts. You'll see an improvement. And I'll personally say that I like the short. I can see you coming along. So I want to start right there. As you've grown as a filmmaker, and I would say you've grown from your first short, your second short,
Mhm,
I say this is the most competent one you've made yet. You seem to have a very good grasp of what you want this time. I find your beginning filmmaking has depth now at the
mhm,
beginning shot. So let's break down that beginning shot. When I
mhm.
first met you, you would have done a straight shot, a box shot, and not really had a lot going on. You know what I mean? You would have had a very heavy narrative. So why did you
Mhm.
change all that for this one?
Well, with this one, um, I kind of wanted to combine what those previous two films did, which were more experimental, and I wanted to have more emotional depth with this one, and plus, with this being more personal, uh, it meant a lot to me because I had two grandparents that had Alzheimer's disease, so that's essentially
Awful.
where the story came from. Yeah, it's terrible. Uh, Well, just one thing though. This is actually not my third short. This is actually like my 10th short film. I've been making short films since I was since for like the last 12 years.
Hold on. It's the third short you sent me. You sent me nothing else. So I can only base it on what I have.
True. Yes. Yes. Exactly. But no, I mean, I think with every film you do grow inch by inch. So, I guess yeah, I guess I just wanted to combine that more experimental side that I did for the previous two, along with having more of a narrative structure, I suppose. I hopefully that answers your question.
I do want to get into the short a bit more. Is this two just separate shots or is this you adjusting the shot later? It looks like you have an opening shot, then you played with it
Yeah.
afterwards. You've added things. So I was wondering if you shot your individual actor and then CGI'd or added things or did an overlay shot. 'Cause it definitely looks like two shots in one at the beginning.
The shot where the camera pulls back as she's standing by the shelves.
You exactly where I'm at. Yes.
Oh, nope, that's just all one shot. There's no CGI magic happening there.
Well, nice work then.
Yeah, no, we just had the camera on the dolly, and then we just pulled the camera back as she was standing there and then walking forward. That was really it. And then we just set designed the entire set with the black background, the shelves, the everything. So I mean, yeah, it was like I think yeah we had designed the set the week prior, set up the shelves, and then we set up the lights and everything, and then yeah, and then we just came in and just started shooting basically.
Okay, let's go back up. I want to discuss the set design. Seems very important for this shot.
hmm
So,
hmm
what is the room exactly? Is it a basic room and you've added all that stuff, or is this somebody's house? Walk me through that.
So my cinematographer on the film, who's brilliant, Nelson Reese, he knew of this community center where he lives, and they had this very dark space in there, and so he got the idea because we were wondering. I was pulling my hair, like wondering how we're going to shoot this complicated, essentially one long scene if you really break it down. Because there's a lot that happens there and a lot, especially in the ending. So he came up with the idea. He said, "Well, why don't you just get like black, not a backdrop. It's like a black solid. Get like three black solids, one for each corner of the room. You shoot in one corner of the room for one side of the set, turn the shelves around, shoot the other side of the set because essentially it's black everywhere, so it doesn't matter where. So the camera can point in the same direction. It's the set that has to turn around. So that was a brilliant revelation because I was like, oh yeah, that'll make it so much easier. So essentially, we rented the space and then we got three black solids and we set them up from the ceiling to the floor, things like that. And then we got the shelves in there. And then Lisa Wynn, who was my co-producer, my set designer, she basically came in with all the props, both of which we rented or we got from other people, and we just put them, scattered them all about the shelf, basically. The room is supposed to represent her mind, like we're inside Anna's
Yes,
mind throughout the entire. Yes. So, and it's funny because when people have reviewed the film, they've said, "Oh, it's is it an attic? Is it her garage?" I'm like, "Nope, it's her brain. It's supposed to be
that's
like
what I thought.
the yeah, exactly." So, it's like sort of the nether regions of her mind, basically, is what we were trying to design.
Well, I think you got that. I think of that. But I want to go back to the set design. You said you rented some
Yeah.
stuff and you got some stuff.
Hmm.
So let's break that down a bit more. Where'd you rent your
Sure.
stuff and where'd you get the stuff from?
Okay, so we got some stuff from a prop warehouse that's local to our area in Worcester, Massachusetts. They were very generous. They had, for example, the dollhouse was theirs, and a lot of other a lot of other knickknacks on the shelf, like film cans or reels of film. The tapes were mine from my own blank. I have a couple of blank VHS tapes, and those I just put fake labels on them and put like, oh, this was this memory of 1999 or whatever.
Whatever.
Uh, yeah. And then Lisa, my production designer, she had like the Barbie dolls. A family friend of ours had the wedding album, so it came from just like a hodgepodge of like different sources and people, and some of my own personal collection. So yeah, I mean, it was a combination of renting from the prop warehouse along with family and friends.
So I'm going to go into this a bit more. Was there something you wanted that you couldn't have? I mean, obviously you need the phone. The wedding albums, I think, are very important, and the memories. Is
Hmm.
there something you wanted to add personal that you couldn't?
Uh, yeah, not in that scene in particular, but in the scene in the kitchen where she's going through the fridge and she can't find the ingredients. I had like a little Easter egg that I actually added to the script, but for some reason we just didn't get around to adding it to the fridge. I actually had my childhood phone number written down on a little notepad to put on the fridge. It's just one of those like little callback things I enjoy putting in every so often. And it was going to be the phone number for the daughter or for like another child that she may have had. Not even really important to the scene. It was just something I just enjoy doing. I like throwing in like little Easter eggs, like even though no one else is gonna know what it is, I know what it is. So it's just a fun little trivia thing. But yeah, that's really the only thing I could think of. But otherwise, I got everything I wanted for the shelf.
Okay, the voices that we hear, whose are they?
Those are voices from the so when she's on the phone, those voices are from the birthday scene.
No,
The
no, no.
idea
I want to
there.
know who they are. Are
Uh,
they actors? Are they you?
oh,
Are they your brother
the,
and sister?
they yeah, no, they're all actors. We took the
Okay.
audio from the birthday scene, and the thing about that birthday scene, it's a great compliment to us. People have asked me, was that a birthday party tape from your childhood? Was that a real? I was like, no, we filmed that birthday scene on VHS to make it look like a real home movie, and that none of that scene was scripted. The actors just improvised the entire thing. I said, guys, there's no script here. I want you guys to just have fun. It's a birthday party. It's 1988 or whatever year it is. Just let's just have fun with it. I purposely didn't write anything for that scene in the script because I knew that if it had been written, it would have been too stilted. It wouldn't have had the naturality of a home movie. And that was the great challenge there. It's like, how do you fake a home movie and make it look authentic and real? Which goes into, my cinematographer was really trying to, he asked me, oh, do we need to shoot that digitally? I'm like, nope, I'm not going to shoot that digitally. I'm going to shoot that in VHS. And I think he even tried to talk me into doing some lighting. I'm like, nope, no lighting either, because no one lit home movies. They just turned on the light in the house. That was
That's
it.
correct.
So,
So let's
so
back that up. As
yeah,
a director and as a script writer,
uh,
you just let them go. Does that feel weird to you? Just letting, this is your
yes,
project. This is your
Yes, it's very
baby.
weird.
And I
Yeah.
think most directors like some semblance of, let's be honest, direction. So you're
hmm
telling me you just said, okay, go free wild. So at any time, did you have to correct them or you were happy with the project immediately?
So no, so what I did, well, I didn't just let them go completely. We had a basis. Like I would say to the actors, okay, before this scene, let's do some build up with each other. So I had them all talk to each other in character and discuss memories that they had together. So for example, the young Lily who played the daughter in that scene, I had her talk to Nick and Chelsea, who were the parents. I had them discuss the time they went to Disney World together. Even though we don't hear that information or even see it in the scene, it didn't matter. It built history, and so I did that for the improvisation scenes. I had them build a history together. At the very least, like in the dancing scene, I had Chelsea and Nick hold hands with each other and discuss the time that he proposed to her. Again, even though it's not on the scene, it helps me as a director know where they're coming from. It also helps them as actors to believe that they're in this relationship or believe that they have this child and that they're having this birthday party. There's this history. They have family. They have friends. That's what makes good improvisation work is to me anyway, it's having a history where and context. Whereas if you just let the actors go with no context, then suddenly they're talking about something else that's 360 degrees away from what the scene is supposed to be, and that doesn't work. Whereas if you have context and history, then it can work. So with the birthday scene, we only had one shot to get it because obviously they have to cut the cake, and we only had one cake. So I was like, okay, so we can't do this twice. We only got to do this once. So before we had the camera roll, I we had the actors practice, not cutting the cake, and just do some light improvisations. And I'm like, okay, I think we got it. Now let's roll the camera. So there was a little bit of practice there, but yes, in that instance, yes, I gave the actors freedom and trust to try different things that I probably wouldn't have come up with. And they were brilliant. They were great.
So I have to go back to the cake because it's me. Did you eat the cake?
Yes, we did.
And was it any good?
It was very good, actually. Yes.
Because you never know with cake. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's good cake and bad cake.
Exactly. No, we were lucky we had good cake.
Well, that's good to hear. That's nice.
Yes.
I have to ask who's kitten?
Who's kitten?
Cat? There's a cat or a kitten.
I don't remember a kitten.
Who's kitten in the opening shot? There definitely is a cat or something in the opening shot. Am I
Like
wrong?
on the shelf.
Yes.
I don't remember. I have to look at it again.
Okay, don't worry about it. Let's move on.
Okay.
Shooting in the car.
Okay.
I always interested how you people shoot in the car and how you set up your shot in the car. And
Uh-huh.
are you seat belted? You know what I'm looking at. Help me out here. The car's
Oh,
moving
sure.
for sure in this one.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, this was very unusual type of car setup. Normally, I mean, you're correct though. Normally with a car setup, yes, you're seat belted in. You have the
Yeah.
camera mounted to a.
You're
You have the
definitely
camera
not
mount.
seat belted.
No, you have the camera mounted to the car, all that because this was like just a mini DV camera and the actors were operating it. That stuff didn't exist. So Allison, who played Anna in that scene, she was just holding the camera in her hand, and I remember her being so concerned about the focus shifting on the white back, and I'm like, don't worry about it. This is a whole movie, and nobody cares. And so, but it was weird in that way to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Normally, I'm going crazy as a cinematographer too,
Well,
worrying
that's
about these
what,
things.
yes.
but 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 it felt good to just be free and be like, nope, don't worry about it. But yes, she was operating the camera. Me and the sound guy were in the back seat, knelt down on the floor listening to the sound and making sure I'm not on the shot. And I'm listening to the dialogue. The sound guy's monitoring the sound. So in that way, it was a very silly looking operation, but hey, it worked.
Now, how far did you have to take the car? Did you tell them 2 blocks, 3 blocks?
2 or 3 blocks. Yep, we drove around 2 or 3 blocks for about a half an hour or so. It was a very easy shoot. I was actually surprised how easy it was because normally with car scenes, you find yourself driving like I don't know 2 3 hours to get a
Yes.
good shot. Like for example, the previous short that you had seen, Imposter, with that bus scene, we drove around for 5 hours to get good
Wow.
shots. I mean, and that but that was a lot of coverage, you know. But but this was different because it was just like a very simple scene. So like in a half hour, we were done with that scene. It was incredible. So
Okay. So I want to go back to the home movies.
yep,
When were they shot? Were they shot in consecutive order, or did you shoot those first, or did you shoot the main scene first? Like, construct the short for me. How were they shot?
great. That's a great question. So the first thing that we shot was the kitchen scene as well as the home movies. The reason being is because we knew we needed those home movies to be projected on the various screens
Right.
for the main bit, and I knew that going into it. So I made a point to we made it a point to put that in the schedule first to shoot those home movies, get the film developed because some scenes were shot on Super 8 millimeter film, so we had to shoot those scenes, get the film developed, get the print back from the lab, and then get all the props, the projector, and all that, and get the TV set up, the all that stuff. So we had to do all that first, and then shoot the main scene a few months later. So that's ended up what happening there.
So hang on. You actually shot on Super 8?
We did.
And how long did it take you to get that back?
It took about 2 weeks to get it back.
Were you worried?
Very worried because it was not a cinematographer shooting it when we had the actors shooting it because I didn't want those scenes to have a polish to them. I wanted them to look, amateurish in some way. So yeah, I was definitely worried about like I would set up the exposure exactly as I wanted it prior to just to make sure we at least got a decent picture out of it. But otherwise, in terms of camera movement and focus, that was all the actors. So yeah, I was definitely worried about getting it back. The hopscotch scene we did shoot digitally as a backup just in case, but then when I saw the results come back from the lab, I thought, oh, okay, this is gonna work. So then we just end up just using that.
Okay. One thing I did notice, you don't have a lot of makeup on any actor. If you
Right.
do, it's very, very subtle. And
It's
I
very
thought that
subtle.
worked brilliantly for you. I think it added what you were looking for in your short. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what we were looking for. It really felt to me like a human experience. Does that make sense? Like I'm
Yes.
not watching a made up film. I'm watching your
Right.
home movies.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like you could have
That.
filmed this in my world and you told me, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is my real grandmother. This is really home movies.
Yep.
And I've just added an extra scene at the beginning. And I would have accepted that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. I mean, yeah, for those home movies, there was little to no makeup, if anything. And then particularly for Sissy, who played Anna in the present day, there was makeup on her, but it was mostly to age her up more, make her look more sickly, things like that. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
everything about
the older actor.
yeah. Yeah, so everything about this film was supposed to be more grounded, like a little bit more grounded, even though it is very surreal in its setting and things like that. So yes, the makeup was intentionally done that way.
Now, costuming. I definitely think you did some costuming for this film. Where did that come from?
That also came from a variety of sources. Grace, who was our wardrobe supervisor, she went to a couple of Goodwill shops for some of the for the children and the hopscotch scene. So she found some 60s clothing there. I think she had some stuff for her own wardrobe as well as Lisa did. And I believe, yeah, I believe the nightgown came from Grace from her own ward. I think she found that somewhere. But yes, those were all uh, uh, either purchased at a Goodwill shop or it came from Grace or Lisa's own older wardrobe collection.
This is going to be a weird question. The stuff is purchased. Do you keep that yourself or do you let the actors have it?
It depends. I mean, sometimes I'll keep props if I know I'm going to use them again. Like particularly the older items, I tend to keep if I can. That'd be great. Especially like any kind of old camera or photographic stuff, I like to keep because I do have a collection of old cameras, so I like to pile that up. Costumes, I will keep sometimes, depending. But otherwise, I'll let the actors keep them.
Okay, this is going to be another question. Where does your
Okay.
wife let you keep this stuff then?
Oh yeah. When I moved in with my wife, I had a whole bunch of stuff in the garage, like props and stuff over the years. Yeah, she's I think she hears me. Right, hon? Nope, she can't hear me.
Perfect.
uh but yeah, no, yeah, usually in the garage.
Okay. Now, I noticed you added a lot of sounds to your short.
Yes.
Now, did you know what you were going to do with that ahead of time? I understand you might have an idea, but in post, obviously, you see a lot more. So, going into your film, you had one idea. Did it change by the end of the film with the sounds?
Oh yes, without a doubt. I mean, the soundscape basically became the soundtrack for the movie because I knew, well, I knew when I went into editing the rough cut and watching it, that I was contemplating whether or not we wanted music. And after watching it a few times and putting it together, I came to the conclusion we don't need music.
I don't think it would have
And
worked.
nope, it would have
I
been too
think you would have.
sappy.
There you go. I agree with you. I think you would have screwed
Yeah.
it up for me.
Yeah, so I made the very unconventional decision to not have music for the film, and I just had the sound effects be the soundtrack, if you will. And so like I knew I wanted that, but I wasn't sure what sounds exactly. And then Jay Shaheen, who was my sound designer, he was great because he would add things that I didn't even think of. Like I would give him a bass line. Well, after we finished shooting, we got some pickup shots. We got some extra shots. I think in July of last year. After doing the rough cut, and we realized, okay, no, it needs a little bit more. So we got more pickup shots. We did more inserts, things like that. And then upon adding those shots into the editing, we realized, yeah, we need this sound, that sound. Okay, I want to hear this. As she picks up this object, things like that. And then Jay, he added those things, but then he added extra like little layers here and there. Like there's a very subtle kind of drone ambient sound effect throughout the whole piece, and that was all Jay because he wanted to give this like sort of otherworldly sound to it. That way, it didn't just sound like okay, we're in this random room, but there's some ambience to that room, and it's very specific. So yeah, that would so yeah, I did know what I wanted. I did know what I wanted initially, but at the same time, it was I found more could be done with it once we got to the editing.
Okay. I found this is my third short I've seen of you of your 10.
Hmm.
I find you as a filmmaker are very, it's personal things with you.
Yes.
It could be personal struggles, it could be personal observations. I don't want to read into you, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I found this film, An Imposter, very traumatic for me, very strong-willed. So, for me as a filmmaker, is this the way you like to make films? Like a personal films always? Like I don't feel,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're a fictional work. I don't feel that at all. I feel
Yeah.
everything has to have a home with you to make.
It does. Yeah. I mean, for me, whenever I make a film, whether I write it or do not write it, like in the case of Undertaker, I didn't write that film.
Right.
My friend Chris Selby wrote that. The reason I was attracted to that material was because I not only because of the again the surrealism of it, but I did see a personal connection with that film. He Chris pitched that film to me as being a film about performance that we're all performing different roles, and whether or not the Undertaker is actually an Undertaker. Is he in purgatory? Is he not? Is he transitioning from one personality to the other? We don't know, and that's
Doesn't
kind of the
matter.
point of yeah, it doesn't matter. That's the point of the film, and I suppose I feel that way a lot of times about identity, and that we're all playing different roles, and like how others perceive us versus how we see ourselves. That's a whole other thing. But yes, I every film I do need to have some sort of personal connection to it. I have to feel in love with the material, whether I write it or do not write it. And it also brings up an argument in that way. If I write it and I fall in love with it, am I being objective enough or am I falling in love with my own words? And that's very tough. And that's where good collaborators come in who are honest with you and to tell you, hey, Chris, I don't buy this. This doesn't work. Or, Chris, I don't really believe this. So I really do depend on actors and collaborators to like tell me like if something works or does not work, if it's something I wrote. Whereas if I didn't write it, I could be more objective and say, okay, yes, I could see myself directing something like this because I feel this, I know this, I identify with this. Um, so yes, personal films are definitely important to me, but they have to have my own sort of signature style, whatever that is. I'm still finding I'm
Oh,
still
no, I
finding
don't think I think you have a style. I don't think you
yeah.
see it, but I see it.
Well,
I've seen three of your shorts now. I see your
mhm.
style. I'm guarantee you,
Yeah.
as an observer, you have one.
Well, that's good to hear because because for years I've been trying to develop that, and it's like it's also I think as a filmmaker too, anyone who's listening, it's important to have a voice, like
Oh,
your own personal,
absolutely.
like like I could go on and on about the list of filmmakers who I admire and love, like Scorsese or Yorgos, Lanthimos, David Cronenberg. When you see their films, for example, you know it's their film because they have a very distinct and specific voice, whether it's how they move the camera, how they deal with certain subjects, or their composition, whatever the case may be. You know it's their film when you watch it. Whereas if you watch a film by any other filmmaker and they don't have something distinct, it's hard to really see the personality of the filmmaker. And sometimes that can be dangerous where if you impose yourself too much, that could come off as pretentious. So it's a very delicate balance of like how much of yourself are you putting into it and how much of it is it alienating the audience. So it's finding that balance of like, okay, how much is too far and is the audience identifying with this and understanding it, you know?
I just want to add two names to your list. I'd add Spielberg to that list.
Mm-hmm.
I'd add Hitchcock to the list, and Ken
Absolutely.
Russell,
Yep.
100% I'd add to that list. If you're
Kubrick.
watching it,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. So there you go. So I'm going to move on to fun questions. I think we've done a great job on the short, even though you've only sent me 3 of 10. I don't know where the other
Yeah. Yeah.
seven are, Chris. I'm not
I,
happy
I'll, I'll,
about
send,
that.
I'll send you the rest.
So that's very kind of you. Okay,
Yeah.
first question. You know how to do this. You've done this before.
Uh-huh.
Your favorite book about film?
Favorite book about film? That's a great question. Oof. Well, I really do love this book about director Michael Cimino, called I think it's called let me get the proper name for it, but it's about like but it's a biography about his life. And I think it's called like The Art and Ego. Oh, here it is. Chimino, The Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, and The Price of Vision. That to me is a great book. Because here, I mean, those are listeners that don't know who Michael Cimino is. He directed The Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, Year of the Dragon, which I think is a very underrated movie.
I agree.
He did the remake of Desperate Hours, which was not that good, but it has some interesting
Not sure
qualities.
if I've seen that.
Yeah, it was okay. It was with Mickey Rourke and Anthony Hopkins. It's an okay movie. The Sicilian with Christopher Lambert, not a
I
great
have seen.
movie,
Not a good
but
movie at all.
but but there's some beautiful epic shots of that movie. I
Oh,
think
I
it's a
agree. I like the opening. I like his
yeah,
locations. Just
it's
Michael
a
Lambert.
beautiful it's a beautiful looking movie. It just was a missed opportunity because well, there's a
Yeah,
whole history behind that movie. Paramount didn't want Cimino to use Michael Corleone in the story because it's tied to the Godfather. Anyway, that's a whole other piece of history. But anyway, so Cimino was a director of who again he had a voice, but the thing was he was so determined to get his voice on screen so much so that he compromised budgets and sometimes his relationships with the crew or the cast to get anything he wanted on film, and that meant going over budget a lot of the time. That meant doing anything he could to get his vision on screen, which unfortunately cost his career for anyone that knows about the history of Heaven's Gate. But anyway, I think that's a great book because it's a great teaching tool in filmmaking, but it's also a great teaching tool in how to deal with people, personalities. So, and plus, he's just a very interesting figure, very sort of Napoleon like, in my opinion, and also reminds me a lot of Coppola, who also was sort of the same way. There's also a great book about Coppola that I'm reading right now that's fantastic.
okay, your favorite genre of film?
Favorite genre? I would say psychological thrillers I tend to gravitate towards, or anything that's sort of absurdist, kind of like, again, like kind of like The Lobster, like what Yorgos does, like Kinds of
Love The
Kindness.
Lobster.
I'm Yeah, it was a fantastic movie. So yeah, I'm attracted to psychological thrillers and those sort of surreal absurdist films.
Favorite film of last year?
The Substance. I thought it was brilliant.
And that's your three questions. You are out of here. But before we let you go, since he has 10 films, people, and he only sent me three, that means there's nine of them have to be available somewhere to watch.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, they're all available on my website, which is storiesmotion.com. I have Imposter, Undertaker up on there. I did a little short documentary during the pandemic called Yesteryear. That's also up there. And I also have two comedies that I did. Both very weird and different, but the Deja Vuers and Undatement Center, those are both on my website as well.
Well, Chris, thank you for your time as always, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.